Black Monday is on the horizon, a week from today. Monday after the regular season. Jobs are coming open. We've got 3 already open across the NFL. Chicago, New Orleans, and the New York Jets with Eberflus, Allen, and Saleh. They've got a head start on who they may want to target, or if they're also hiring a general manager, they've interviewed general manager candidates who currently don't have a job. Great. Others are coming. Hot seat. Expecting the worst on my list of coaches, these 4. Mike McCarthy. Now, his contract expires. So I don't know if we're going to call this a firing, but he's not going to be retained. I give him credit. His team is still playing hard for him. At least that's what Jerry Jones was saying. Oh, wait. Did you see what happened against Philadelphia? The Eagles put up 41 points and didn't even play Jalen Hurts because he's in concussion protocol. McCarthy deserves better because he's a lame duck coach after leading the Cowboys to 3 straight 12-win seasons, but he also deserves the fate of playoff no-shows. And this year, not even coming close to contending for the postseason. They've been close to maybe winning a game or 2 at home, and that's it. He came into the season as a lame duck head coach, and that's Jerry Jones allowing that to happen. And Jones has been known for being patient. There's some buzz going that they could bring him back for another year, but why? We've seen the peak here, haven't we? It's time for Jones to maybe be impatient and go after one of the top young offensive coordinators and pair that coach with Dak Prescott. McCarthy is expecting that anyway, and he'll likely land somewhere else. He can interview wherever he wants to right after the season when his contract expires. Doug Pederson. Here's another coach that I believe will be fired, but some believe he's going to stick around now. I don't see it. Where is the step forward for Trevor Lawrence? When he's healthy, he's average, and Pederson's been the same. Plenty of coaches would love to get a crack at coaching Trevor Lawrence. And back in the preseason, Shad Khan, their owner, said this was the greatest talent his franchise had ever assembled to begin a year. That cannot be good news for Doug Pederson. Brian Daboll, a total mess. Somehow they beat the Colts. But recent crowds have planes flying banners overhead urging Mara to fire everyone. I think he's going to do that, even though that the GM and the head coach are not considered to be a package deal. I think that's happening. Antonio Pierce, next up. Mark Davis hates losing. Tom Brady hates losing even more. And the Raiders do a lot of losing. They're not smoking cigars in the locker room this year. The locker room next year is bound to have a new head coach. And as Tom Pelissero points out, one of these 3 players, Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs, and Max Crosby, of the group that Davis leaned on when he decided to fire Josh McDaniels, he went to those 3 guys. Only one of them remains on the roster. Pierce has even fired his offensive coordinator, his offensive line coach, his quarterback coach midseason. Word is that Patrick Graham, his defensive coordinator, turned down a contract extension. New leadership is coming. Medium, extremely nervous, and I think needing a great pitch to keep their job. They can do this, but maybe they won't. Gerard Mayo. Sounds crazy, but Mayo could be one and done, especially if Robert Kraft wants to go hire Mike Vrabel. It's not expected that this will happen necessarily, but Mayo did call out his team for being soft, and they currently have the number 1 overall pick in the NFL. They have a promising quarterback. Maybe Travis Hunter is going to Foxborough. He could be in the mix. But keep in mind, Bill Belichick went 4-13 last season. It's not like this was a playoff team, and then this has been a total collapse. Just really bad personnel. He'll still need to reiterate why he's capable of big improvement in 2025, but that's why I put him a tier below. Brian Callahan's there with him. I cannot name one area where the Titans have improved from Vrabel to Callahan. It's been a disastrous first season for the first-time head coach who's learning on the job as a play caller, and it's not all on him. Owner Amy Adams Strunk said that this regime would be collaborative. She could clean house, general manager and all. Maybe she doesn't fire everyone, but trust me when I say everyone stays nervous knowing she fired John Robinson when he was 20 games above 500, and Mike Vrabel, who was less than 2 years removed from NFL Coach of the Year honors. Everyone there is on high alert anytime they face Houston. This Sunday, the Titans host the Texans, and they'll be wearing Oilers throwbacks. Don't get blown out against Texans backups. Shane Steichen, we discussed this. He's on the hot seat. I mean, the Colts have now had 3 late-season playoff-eliminated losses over the last 4 seasons. 2 of those 3 are pathetic losses, facing the worst team in the NFL in week 16 or 17. So is it Chris Ballard? Is it Steichen? Is it the whole thing? Jim Irsay could do anything. Mild here on the hot meter. Hoping for the best, staying optimistic. Mike McDaniel, he just signed a contract extension this past offseason. I don't think they're going to change now, especially with the injuries that have plagued this team. But McDaniel needs to start coaching a team that wins against good teams, because right now they only beat bad ones. Zach Taylor, not expected he's going to get fired, especially for a franchise that's known for not spending big money on coaching and scouting staff. They don't pay multiple coaches all at once. But Taylor needs to change things on defense because they are wasting Joe Burrow in his prime. And Kevin Stefanski, the Browns are not expected to move on from Stefanski, which I think would be the right move. But you never know with this franchise. And keep in mind that pass rusher Myles Garrett said that he wants to learn the team's plan before committing to Cleveland long term. What does that mean? And do you listen to Garrett, or do you run it back if he wants new leadership? I would listen to Garrett, future Pro Football Hall of Famer. So the seat heating up for those coaches. How about the coaching candidates? Mike Vrabel's going to be at the top of the list this offseason. I'm surprised he didn't get a gig last offseason. I thought he'd be the Patriots head coach, but then we learned that, well, Mayo is the coach in waiting. And this was also a year removed from when Ben Johnson was very selective. He's also on the list. Vrabel and Johnson. Brian Flores is one to watch. The defense in Minnesota is legit. And Flores has a legit lawsuit out against the league. I would interview him. And I would think long and hard about hiring the guy. He didn't suck in Miami. Let's put it that way. Aaron Glenn, I think, has a chance to be the next Saints head coach. Todd Monken is a name to watch. And Brian Johnson. Jesse Minter, former defensive coordinator at Michigan. Now he's doing that for Jim Harbaugh. I won't be surprised to see his name mentioned a lot of different places. Bobby Slowick in Houston, Frank Smith out of Miami, Mike Kafka, Ejiro Evero, Anthony Weaver. Those are names we've heard in the hiring process. But, Davey, I think that the top candidates right now, Mike Vrabel, Ben Johnson, Brian Flores, Aaron Glenn, Todd Monken, Brian Johnson. But also throw in Mike McCarthy. You know, there are coaches that are going to get, be shown the door that have a great opportunity to pick their spot. And McCarthy's won a Super Bowl. He's had 3 consecutive years of 12-win seasons. And then this year in Dallas, if you're looking for great candidates, I would put him out there in a year where there could be several teams looking for coaches. We're already 3.
Yeah, I mean, based off the list that you put together, I think that slide with Mike McCarthy, Antonio Pierce, like all 4 of those coaches. I was trying to think who else was on that one. We had Doug Pederson,
and Brian Daboll.
I think all 4 of those guys are gone. That gets you to 7. We're going to have one more. I really do think you mentioned it, but this is Robert Kraft's one opportunity to get Mike Vrabel, and so. I mean, listen, if you finish as the worst team in the NFL, I get that, Gerard Mayo's been there for a long time. He is a New England lifer, but, sometimes difficult decisions have to be made. And I could easily see Robert Kraft being like, I want Mike Vrabel. Sure. This is my only opportunity to get him. So they pulled the trigger there. I think you're looking at 8 new head coaches in the NFL, or at least new coaches at different landing spots.
Yes, changes.
After this cycle comes around.
So I think Vrabel's either the head coach at one of 3 places, and I think ultimately he gets to pick if New England comes open. That'll be hard for him to turn down. But it's Las Vegas with the Raiders, with Brady. They're tight. It's New Orleans, and I know for a fact New Orleans has already done their due diligence and started to, behind the scenes, look around and call around about Vrabel. And then, of course, there's New England. So it's those three.
Yeah.
And I would presume that with Brady having a heavy hand and voice now with that organization, with the Raiders, about personnel and just day-to-day operations with the roster, that's exactly what Vrabel's looking for.
Yeah.
Not that he picks up the phone and it's every day Brady's there in person. I'm saying, like, Vrabel's going to be the alpha. He's going to come in and take charge. There'll be a general manager there, but the general manager is for the day-to-day operations and mechanics of the organization. When he wants a player, it's going to be Brady that's going to have a heavy hand, not Mark Davis anymore.
Granted, we still have one more weekend of action, but if you are the New England Patriots right now, there's a very good chance you are going to hold on to that number 1 overall pick. They don't need a quarterback. They've got Drake May, so you're looking at picking up somebody's first-round pick next year. Are the Giants, the Raiders, are they desperate enough to trade up and give away a lot of draft capital? But, I mean, if you're looking to restart...
Or do you take Hunter? Do you take Travis Hunter? I mean, there's a great talent, man.
There's a chance with the Giants, he's still there at 4 if they want to move back up to 1.
So, man, yeah, that's fair. Let's also throw this out there, that the Patriots are going to have the number 1 pick. I know they're playing the Bills. The Bills, I believe, are expected to play some of their starters. There's talk that the Patriots are going to play Joe Milton at quarterback.
I've seen that show a lot.
Yes.
He's not ready for the NFL. So if Joe Milton is starting, that tells me you are doing everything in your power to lock up the number 1 overall pick.
So I mentioned Mike McCarthy, Davey. I don't know why teams would go the NBA route. You know, the refurbished head coach, Pederson, Pete Carroll, should mention his name too. I didn't throw his name in there for Chicago. Again, the older coach. I'd go get Ben Johnson. And I would get the innovative offensive talent that did and has worked wonders in Detroit. And it's a version of what we're seeing in Minnesota. Offensive head coach there with O'Connell. Detroit is going to be without their offensive coordinator now. So it's a step up with him this year with Johnson. Meanwhile, in Houston, Bobby Slowick, step backwards.
Yeah, definitely a step backwards. The one thing I'll say is Ben Johnson is going to have his pick, but if I am Chicago I look at the dysfunction, the cultural issues that program has had for years and years, if I can get Vrabel, I'm taking Vrabel over Ben Johnson because I know he will get the locker room straight. There's a lot of dysfunction there, but that might also be a thing to where if you're Vrabel, you might be trying to find other options. You mentioned McCarthy. My last point, I'd love to see McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers team back up one more time. It's not going to end well. We all know that, but I don't know who to attribute this to, but I read a tweet the other day. It was like, the Jets landing Aaron Rodgers is like you landing your high school crush, but she's 40 and she's got 4 kids now. So, listen, it's fun for that minute, but after that, the shame starts to set in and you realize this isn't as great as I thought it was going to be.
So, I mean, they didn't score a single point in their Week 17 game until Rodgers left the game. He's now been sacked more than any quarterback in NFL history, too.
It's just sad at this point.
He set that record with the Jets. Yeah, so Black Monday, it's not fun for the majority of coaches around the league, at least half of them, because they feel like, have I done enough? There's panic setting in for the staff as well. We'll find out who's in, who's out, and who's going to be hired.